horses, Governor Bobber, are like good day doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Okay, it is Friday, February 4th. 8 days into Vladimir Putin's invasion. Oh, March 14th. That's right. Yeah, March 4th. Yeah, I tell you, days
it's already
Shamrock
Steak time. We're not waiting for it.
I know. We're in day 8 of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
Yep.
Let's call it what it is. We've got the Ukrainian flag behind us, showing our solidarity with the good people of Ukraine and President Zelensky. And we think, as we were talking before we went live, is where's the CIA? Is what I'd like to know. Where are they? Why are they? Like in the old days, remember Charlie Wilson, Don? I mean, Charlie Wilson is the reason we bankrolled the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Who is our Charlie Wilson of this generation? Do we even have one? And Charlie Wilson was a Democrat.
God, I mean, they're spooks. How do we always know what the heck they're doing anyway, right?
That's true. I mean, if they were doing their job, frankly, I think we would have seen, they would have been handing out guns and so on, and we would, but it's one of those things. It's like, what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, it all kind of runs together with, if you look at Joe Biden's State of the Union, it was a disaster, frankly, he basically gave us basically how, Build Back Better, he pushes that, but he was renamed Build Back Better to Build Back Stupid. Oh, that's what I call it, Build Back Stupid. But I mean, it's really, we're the leader of the free world. We are leading from behind. Why are we doing this? Why are we not doing stuff? I mean, we funded the Contras until the what do we call it? Till the Democrats in Congress cut off funding to the Contras.
Yeah, that's really an overt operation.
No, my point is Zelensky is it's kind of like George Washington. George Washington was fighting the greatest military power on the globe at that time in the British Empire.
Right. So again, I would approach it this way: if we really want to help out, if we want to help out them and really get and not really upset Russia too much, we should be supplying, like, we should have a channel for like aid and arms where we go through like neighboring countries. Either I heard that the Switzerland's the Swiss.
I know the Swiss.
Some arms. Also, like Poland and other perhaps Baltic states that are friendly to Ukraine. We could probably get those in easier and then get them across the border. If we try to have like boots on the ground, even covert ops, I think that's going to escalate the situation. But that's my personal opinion.
I just think it's just a disaster. I mean, remember when Don, Jeff. This is probably for Jeff and I. This was the first war of our generation, Desert Storm. We remember when Kuwait was invaded in the middle of the night by Iraq. My least favorite Bush, George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, but I remember that. I actually was up when they did all the like the shock and awe stuff. It truly was an amazing sight to see. And yeah, that was a rapid response. We did support. I really thought that was one of the best operations we had because we did respond, I think, appropriately in force. The whole Russia situation. Again, whether it would have been Trump or Biden, there really isn't a good way to diplomatically work through this issue. We pretty much have the whole world against Russia.
And I think we need to stop buying Russian oil. We need to stop buying Russian oil. We need to we'll open up the XL pipeline. We need to basically drill in Anwar, drill everywhere, drill here, drill now. As Sarah Palin so eloquently put it, drill, baby, drill. frankly, that's what we need to do. We can't, okay. The other thing we need to do is, how I tell you, I know Lindsey Graham got some flack today, or was it yesterday when he said it? But so honestly, I have no problems with that. Frankly, if Vlad were to trip down a flight of stairs and crack his head open, I'm not going to shed any tears for it. This is trying to. He is ordering hit squads to go after democratically elected president of a sovereign nation, and everybody's just kind of Putin is a war criminal. Where are all the Democrats who were calling Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld war criminals? Where are they? I don't understand. They've always kind of just gotten really silent.
Well, so let me ask you a question, Dwight. How do you see this going? I mean, if we actually stood up to Russia, I mean, do you expect there to be more of a global war when it comes to this? Because I think that's what we're trying to avoid is a war.
Okay. Sometimes you don't. Okay. I think Putin is a coward. Frankly, he's like every other bully I've ever met. You stand up to him. He would. If we were to start massing troops in Romania and Poland. I know, we don't want to go into World War III, but sometimes you do have to go to war for the right reasons. We can't be Neville Chamberlain. We can't be, I mean, I'm just saying, why don't we do like we did for World War II, Lend-Lease? Let's loan weapons, and let and if somehow they happen to end up in the Ukraine, so be it. Let's
right. So I think there's side channel operations we can do, but I mean, maybe I'm a child of the Cold War, but I think that a lot of my generation kind of have that fear of Russia that if we engage with them head to head, it's going to escalate quickly. That was the whole arms race. That was the whole trying to de-escalate the situation.
By the way, Jeff, Don, you'll appreciate this. I found the equivalent to masking in the 1960s and 70s. Duck and cover was about as effective as as face masks are today.
Well, of course, he had the nuclear bomb drills where you'd hide under your desk and stuff, which I don't know. That's probably. I mean, it's the same thing as like if you're an airplane and they say in the event of a crash, put your head down. It's like that's going to at least not save you regardless, but it's something that people do that feels like there's kind of like getting your shoes examined at the TSA at the airport. It doesn't really do anything. It's just
I've had a lot of bad experience with TSA, right?
But anyway, so but again, I think that's. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, what do you think, Don? Do you think that there's just a kind of a general fear of like engaging Russia head to head, or do you think it's something else?
Well, yeah, I mean, this has actually been something that's been reported, written, quite a bit based on what I've been reading here, is that one of the things that people have been some push for is a no-fly zone. Right. And one of the reasons, that they really don't want to get to that point yet is because that will really kind of bring upon a direct confrontation with Russia, and they really don't want to do that. I think this is kind of the normal course of diplomacy. This probably would not have been Trump's diplomacy, but this is traditional diplomacy, is to try to negotiate your way and find some middle ground and do something and end it peaceably, rather than having to take on Russia, head to head. But go back to where Dwight started about we're now in day 8. Mm-hmm. So look, first of all, I have to say I'm amazed. Okay, the fact that we're at war is really disappointing. It's quite a shock, and to see the loss of life, with the Ukrainians who did nothing to provoke this, as far as I'm concerned. But it is, as Dwight said, Putin's a bully, and we've known that he's a bully, and he's acted on these things, and he saw an opportunity and he seized it. But there is no doubt in my mind, day 8, that Putin was not expecting to be here at day 8.
No.
He was expecting that he'd have this thing done in 2 or 3 days. But in his mind, he thought, okay, I'm going to roll the tanks and the troops in. The Ukrainians are just going to roll over and they're going to surrender, right? They're going to raise their arms and say, all right, we're no match for you, because they're vastly outnumbered. But, Russia has, Putin has not only miscalculated the resolve of the Ukrainian people, but his army is woefully and they're not trained at all. I mean, Afghanistan was just a horrible, kind of that lesson of they didn't know what the heck they were doing. They just kept throwing people, weapons, everything at it, and they just kept losing. They're looking at a similar quagmire, or maybe not as long as Afghanistan, but even if they do take over and they're burrowing their way in, I think based on what we've seen with the Ukrainians is that there's going to be an insurgency. There's going to be a lot of people who stand up and they're going to resist. They're not.
They're going to have. I think they're going to have the same problem the British Empire had in Northern Ireland with the IRA, and it's going to be. And let me tell you, the Empire withstood Sinn Féin and not Sinn Féin, the IRA. Actually, Sinn Féin was the political peaceable folks of the Freedom Fighters of Northern Ireland, but they cannot withstand. They cannot be here in another 6 months having these types of guerrilla wars. It's just a matter of time, I think, before some entrepreneurial general or colonel in Moscow will basically maybe we'll have an oligarch's coup, so to speak, and Putin will be sent off to a dacha in Crimea or something like that, where surrounded by a bunch of Ukrainians. I don't know. That'd be fun. Or maybe they just come and arrest Putin and then they deliver him to the Hague for war crimes, have him go before a tribunal. Because Putin is committing war crimes like we haven't seen since the days of World War II and Nazi Germany. He's targeting kids, hospitals, all things that are off limits.
A nuclear power plant. He shelled a nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
Like, are you crazy?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the nuclear power plant. It's it's like, are you nuts? Do you know it's not? And by the way, Barack Obama and the Democrats, you get the blame for this. SDI was for this is the very reason we needed SDI. President Bush, 43. mentioned we needed missile defense to protect us from rogue actors, and this is why we need missile defense. We need SDI. We need I don't know why we don't send a few. I tell you, the Russian Navy is moving towards Odessa. If we were to move a few carriers and destroyers into the Black Sea, it would give the Russians a little bit of a pause before them doing the onslaught. But no, we're not even doing any of that. We are not doing any of those things. We are not giving. We don't have to do the no-fly zone. We could let the European Union do that. And we just need to give them logistical support. I think the biggest problem is those European countries are dependent on Russia for gas and oil, and thankfully, we're coming up on the warmer months. But if we were a net exporter of oil under President Trump, why if we were still doing it, just imagine we could export oil to Europe. Has Joe Biden forgot the Berlin airlift? For crying out loud, we sustained West Berlin for I think it was about 6 months or so with supplies, where we had planes landing and taking off every 25 minutes. We can do great things because we are a great country. But unfortunately, we have a dope for a president who basically, is too busy playing with his train set and eating ice cream in the White House basement, frankly.
Well, it's interesting because, we talk a lot, and I think we've talked about it on the show in the past too, about, you were talking about drill, baby, drill, and all these kinds of things. There's no doubt that the Biden administration's decisions at the beginning of the term to basically kill the Keystone XL pipeline, they didn't do away with leases of oil, drilling on federal lands. These types of things, have put us a little bit into this position of where we're dependent. Now, there is a squeeze going on. I didn't think this was going to work, and I think this takes a lot of time to work. But it has been probably a little more effective than I thought. That we do have cooperation around the world in trying to put some financial squeeze on Russia, and it's complicated because
Well,
there's
not just that, but also Germany's. I think there's that the fuel pipeline they're talking about. So I mean, there's also their energy. I mean, what they're trying to get from Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken, is like partly economic, but partially, like you said, it's partly resources. And again, without jumping too much on it, I was reminded when you guys were talking about remember Georgia? I don't know how many years ago, but when
Yeah, that was during. Yeah.
and that was all about their resources. I think there was like natural gas there, if memory serves. But I mean, it's typical
And
for
Putin
Russia
lo-
and the
and
oligarchs. I mean,
yeah.
that because the main utilities are owned by individuals, the oligarchs that control these things, they have interest. I think that's why he got the go ahead to go into Kuwait. No, Kuwait. I'm sorry. No, I can't think of the name.
Ukraine, Georgia.
Ukraine, thanks. But yeah, I mean, because again, he's that would benefit financially from that. So,
But
anyway.
okay, the oligarchs aren't too happy that they're not able to. Their money's now worthless. Basically, Russia's on the way of becoming the next North Korea, frankly.
Well,
And-
I mean, all of this financial pressure is isolating them. I mean, which I really don't have a problem with this on the surface of it, because it's just like you've got to put the squeeze on this guy somehow. You've got to cut off his resources, financial resources, to make him wake up. The oligarchs, I mean, we're all seeing it, right? Their yachts are being seized. What is it? The guy who owns the Chelsea Football Club in England, he's going to sell the club. His interest in the club, and the proceeds are going to go to help the Ukrainians. The pressure is on there. You were talking. I mean, the ruble is worth 1 pence. I mean, it's dropped by what? More than a third in value. There are people lining up at banks trying to get money. They can't do financial transactions to a large.
I think this is what, maybe 100 rubles now.
Well, to your point, I think it's not just Ukraine that's going to be resisting, but also the Russian citizens. They're also resisting as well. So if Russia doesn't collapse internally, we're still going to see increased pressure by the ordinary civilians within Russia to stop this, because they said they're hurting economically, but they're also not in support of this either.
Right, we're seeing the demonstrations. That is remarkable, isn't it, to see the demonstrations there going on there? But Putin, he's hurting his own people, for what his own ego and everything else that's getting in the way of this. He's just really blind right now to the suffering of his own populace there. I mean, the rich are getting squeezed, and the average citizen, in Russia is now getting squeezed because of the worldwide financial cutoff of all these things. I mean, I just saw tonight that the Dow Jones, they're going to remove all Russian stocks from their indices, which also then puts another line of pressure on them, because that means all these mutual funds and they're basically going to divest themselves of the stocks in these companies. This company, Russia is going to get more isolated. Where are they going to turn, though? I mean, who's their best ally at this point? China?
Yeah, and by the way, I have never
Even that's being strained.
Right.
I have never been more disappointed in the Indian government than right now for them taking a neutral stance on basically on the invasion. I mean, are you like what is the matter with you people? You guys used to stand up against tyranny. Now you're supporting tyranny. You are basically it's an equivalent of if they were supporting the British Empire during the colonial days. Oh wait, they did do that in the Zulu War. But it is such a disgrace. The Prime Minister, who I had a little bit of respect for, he's better than Indira Gandhi and her ilk. But the fact that they are not taking a tougher stance against Russia, it's really basically it's very bad. It is very bad, and and honestly, I think we need to basically expand the net. If you're going to stand with the Russians, you're going to pay. You're going to suffer like the Russians. Maybe we should do the same thing to anyone that if you're not with us, you're against us on this. Borrowing a phrase from John Foster Dulles.
And I want to go back to what Jeff was saying about just a little bit about the energy in Germany and everything too, because Germany put themselves into the situation to begin with, this dependence upon Russia for gas and things like that, because they had they were getting rid of their nuclear energy, right? For which we know is a clean, it's a cheap source of energy, and it's much more environmentally friendly than other things that Germany's dealing with at this point. But for Germany to step up, and now say Nord Stream 2, they finally been kind of pushed into this position where before they weren't, they wanted that gas and they weren't going to buck it, but now they are. Not only have they done that, but their center left government, I mean Scholz, he and the Labour Party leader in Britain, they are now talking about going nuclear. They want to build up their defenses and do things. This has awakened a lot of these countries. I mean, Finland and Switzerland.
Sweden. I mean, Switzerland. Switzerland didn't take sides in World War II when the last big bad on the planet that we all could agree on was slaughtering millions and millions and millions and millions of Jews in Europe. They didn't take a stand then. But they are taking, Sweden. I mean, those Norwegian countries, they've always been passive. But look, Finland. I mean, these people are worried, and here's the thing: we're the arsenal of democracy. We are the good guys. We are basically the Avengers. We are the Justice Society of America. We are the good guys. The Russians have always been the Legion of Doom. They've always been the bad guys, And honest to God, we need to basically treat them like the bad guys. And this is I think, going to be known as Vladimir's last hurrah, frankly, because their economy cannot sustain this for more than 6 months. They will be done. We're getting a lot of comments.
Yeah, we had a long one from Patrick.
Yeah, it looks like the Putin apologists are around tonight, and. I'm sorry, we are not parroting propaganda, Patrick. You're wrong. Sorry, but you're wrong. Let me tell you,
I wasn't sure what propaganda we were parroting there, but
I don't know. We're basically, just like the Dan Cox supporters, that are, showing solidarity with the.
I mean, at least Pat's right. At least Zelensky is noble. And he's become probably a worldwide hero for this. And I do think that Putin underestimated this guy, thinking, well, he was just a comedian. He doesn't know what he's doing, and everything like this. But by taking a stand, he has really changed the dynamic. And I think as a result, that's why he's won the hearts and minds of Ukrainians who are willing to stand and fight. People who are willing to do this, and push up against this. I mean, they're suffering for sure, but they are willing to put up a fight. Yeah, like I said before, the numbers are radically against Ukraine. I mean, they're outmanned and they're outgunned. How long they held on to this, I do not know. But it looks like I think they will try to their last breath to do that, no matter what the result is. And and Putin, his reputation now is in tatters. I mean, a lot of people didn't like him before, and we definitely had politicians on both the right and the left that supported Putin. Okay, and those people are just they should be shot or something, I guess, for that, for what they have done, for supporting him. But Putin is showing if there's any time for Putin to show his true colors, it's been now. And support, what kind of support does he have in Russia? The support he has is just the people he controls. With everybody else, with the demonstrations as we were talking earlier, the support is there is no support there from a lot of the citizenry. But when you control a country like Putin does, you don't really care that much about that.
No, you don't. And that's that is the biggest problem is one, I think I don't know what it is. We've got all of a sudden everyone is like, oh, we never would have stood for this. Let's say if the Soviets had invaded, I don't know, let's say Afghan. Oh, wait, they did invade Afghanistan. The world did not stand. Even Jimmy Carter, spineless weasel of a president, who basically, who evidently Joe Biden is trying to model his presidency around.
Well, look, I mean,
But
even to me, in some ways, I mean, even if Joe Biden, in his heart, wanted to go in and do something, the fact of the matter is that he is so beholden to the left-wing progressives, in the party, that he won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. He won't do it. Even if a bunch of the Senate Democrats said you need to go in, he's still answering, to the left. Though it seems that based on the State of the Union and some of the other things, that he may be looking. Maybe I need these people because my poll numbers up to the point of the State of the Union sucked.
and they still are. They're not much.
Well, you've heard it said that if
You
they try to
got
keep
to bump from the State of the Union, which is kind of typical to happen. I mean, they tend to do that, but as you said, at the beginning of the program too, the State of the Union, I don't know. Look, I don't have a high regard for State of the Union speeches as I looked at it over the last 30, 40 years, because I mean, I love, Reagan and his speeches. I think, he was one of the best speech givers ever. Guy could talk, and his speech writers were great, and he delivered lines really well. And that helps when you're in the entertainment industry and for your part of your career. You just know how to do that. You know how to deliver the lines. But they are kind of the grandstanding for the president, right? For the party in power there is to talk about, kind of go over all the positive things, the platitudes, introduce some great grandiose program for which 90% of the time it will never see the light of day in Congress, and will never get passed, never make it to the president's desk. So it's a lot of promises that will never be fulfilled to begin with. But there's Biden, dealing with the war in Ukraine, dealing with high inflation, dealing with oil prices out of control. He didn't have a whole lot of places to go for the State of the Union to get people too excited about things. And I think you were saying, Dwight, I mean, because I had it down here, Build Back Better. In the speech, he renamed Build Back Better now Building a Better America, because Build Back Better is dead. It's basically dead. So now you bring it back under a new name. Hopefully somebody will pay.
Yes, it's kind of like New Coke, Coke Classic, and the original Coke. It's kind of like although Coke Classic was awesome. This Stardust, it's not. I don't think it's bad as what Brian said, but it's not that good. You can't really. You got to take it in little sips. You can't drink this thing. It tastes like. It's okay. I wouldn't. I mean, I bought it just to try it out, but I don't think I'll be buying this again. Brian, you were right.
Dwight, I think this last comment from Patrick is more of you. I mean, that sounds like you, Boris and Natasha.
Boris and Natasha.
Boris and Natasha on the program before.
Yes, I have. And Patrick, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
I do like Wilson Squirrel.
No, I'm not complaining about war. Ronald Reagan, please, if President Reagan were president right now, this whole thing with Ukraine would be very different. One, I don't think Putin would invade under President Reagan, because President Reagan was President Reagan. And I think what do you call it?
Well, Gorbachev was a different leader too under Russia, so he had different problems.
Actually,
obviously,
a lot of people say he was, but he really, if you read Boris Yeltsin's memoirs, that little coup that happened, it was really he staged it. He said, "I'm going to my dacha in Crimea. You guys take back control." They played it. So he set it up convenient that he looks like the martyr that he was put under house arrest when, according to Yeltsin's memoirs, Gorby wanted to bring back the iron fist of the Soviets, and they were not expecting Boris Yeltsin getting up on a tank. And I think that we're close to that moment where you have a standoff between the Dumas and Boris Yeltsin, not Boris Yeltsin, Vladimir Putin. And I think, that was a great scene where Yeltsin is on top of the tank with the Russian flag, and what's the guy's name? He became president of Georgia. He was Gorbachev's foreign minister, Sakharov. Was not Sakharov. You know what I'm thinking about, Don.
Yeah,
Hold
I
on a
remember the
second.
name
It'll
of it,
come to me
yeah.
in a second.
Yeah, I'm bad with names. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. He was the foreign minister. He basically took over after Gromyko died.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I mean, I think if you talk about Reagan in general too, is that I think Reagan, I do think
It
that
was. I
Reagan
was right. It was Andrei Gromyko.
was respected. I question whether or not Joe Biden, was respected, particularly by Putin. I mean, I think if there had been respect by Putin towards Biden, that Putin
Edward
probably.
Shevardnadze. That's who I was thinking. Edward Shevardnadze. That's the guy.
Bernanke, yeah.
Well, it's
So-
talked a lot about the U.S. and their soft power. About not just their overt aggressions, but also just their ability to make policy. In that policy in other countries, just because of how we position ourselves. And I think that's been one of those aspects that has kind of been lost on a lot of presidents, because they don't really consider the reputation of the U.S. They just consider the strengths and what we can do, but not so much like a reputation thing. So the thing I'm worried about, and again, this is just me personally, but if we don't act in a consistent and authoritative fashion with Russia, then I think that's going to give China the green light to invade Taiwan.
Yeah, and that's absolutely. And this all happened because all roads go back to Afghanistan. If Afghanistan wasn't such a debacle, Yeltsin wouldn't. And I mean, the whole coordination between the Chicoms and the Ruskies, where the Chinese said, "Oh, please don't invade till after the Olympics." We don't want to lose. We're going to have really bad ratings as it is, but if there's a war going, nobody's going to watch us. And it's I mean, I know we're spending a lot of time in Ukraine and Russia, and
but it is the news.
Joe,
I mean, it's dominating.
It is, and here's Joe Biden. Is basically an accomplice to these war crimes. If you think about it, I mean, if they can accuse George W. Bush and Vice President Cheney and Secretary Don Rumsfeld as war criminals and accessories and so on, what I mean, this is blood oil he's getting. He's buying Russian oil. That is, he's got blood on his hands. You know what has blood on their hands? All of the enviros out there. Greta Thunberg, to Bernie Sanders, to Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren wants to eliminate all oil, not just Russian oil. She wants to eliminate all oil. And that's the biggest problem we have right now is these. We got a bunch of Putin apologists, people that are the enviros who basically hate oil, and they're looking at this as an opportunity to get rid of all oil. And no, he is not a tool for the neocons, Patrick. Please, where's this evidence? Where is this evidence? I'm sorry. No, you're wrong. I'm sorry, friend. You're wrong. And it's
looks like Dwight's gonna have an ongoing battle with Patrick tonight.
I know this. It's kind of like what do you call it? This is kind of like when Larry King used to do his overnight show. He didn't screen the calls, right? And he'd let anybody get on, and you could talk for a little while.
We take all comers. I mean, that's and
yeah. And we like dissent. We like dissent. Even that is the great thing about a democracy. You can be as wrong as you want to be.
Well, I mean, look. I mean, none of us there isn't. None of us, think that everybody has to agree with each other.
Exactly.
That's completely boring.
It makes for boring podcast if everybody agreed.
Right. Yeah. So you want a little bit of just to do that. That's why we have Jeff on, because we know that right.
Jeff
right,
is the voice of reason.
The right, and there's Jeff kind of in the middle, stirring the pot a little bit and everything.
Yeah, I mean, again, my thing is I thought there were some things wrong with Trump. I think there's some things wrong with Biden. The biggest problem I have with Biden is that he's even stirring up dissent within his own party. Like Don, you mentioned about the State of the Union. We're used to having a rebuttal from the other side, but he's getting rebuttals from his own party. So, I mean, there's a problem there. And again, I've said it before, a lot of people, they voted for Biden because of COVID, and they wanted to have a president, whether for right or wrong, but a president that would, take up arms for small businesses, help them maintain their survival in this challenging period. And that was what I was hoping that Biden, of all the things that Biden promised, that was one thing I was hoping he would follow through on, is helping out the small businesses, keeping them above water, giving them the support they need to employ people and to serve people during COVID. And even that was just like, it just never happened. So I don't expect him to be follow through with any of his promises, because that was his like a bedrock promise on his campaign. So
Well, I thought what was really fun was when he said lower prices. That's how we fight inflation. Don't charge so much.
Right. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's so many crazy things that Biden has said. I mean, go after big oil for collusion, go after big meat for collusion. Like, this is the big problem. I'll solve the oil problem, the high gas prices when they first spiked, because we'll just release oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve.
Yeah, by the way, you know what that comes out to? Let's say, Don, heaven forbid, if let's say, your house ever caught on fire and you got a pitcher of water and you threw it on the fire, that's the equivalent of how much oil he's released from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. By the way, that's not the solution. The solution is drill, baby, drill. We need to Keystone needs to be flowed. We need to build another pipeline that goes to the Pacific. We need to drill in Parklands. We need to drill in Anwar. We need to drill everywhere.
Drill into homes.
Why not? Honest to God, we need to drill for oil. We need to get the oil pumping. We need to be a net exporter of oil again.
So let me just say, we do have enough oil in the country. We have tar sands. We can do enough, like, fracking, but responsible fracking, not the stuff that's going to necessarily upset the watersheds and such. But we have the capabilities. But ultimately, and I've said this before, oil has a limited life, and we need to have initiatives to put in legitimate alternate energy sources. I mean, again, I'm not against wind and solar, but those will never be a global supply of energy. We have to think about next gen, fusion and fission reactors. And we're not investing in that. And again, it seemed like every other candidate during the 2020 election was saying, yeah, we're going to support, better energy policies. But Biden wasn't. He just was kind of continued along the
and
Obama
Jeff, and you know me, I'm for all the above solutions.
Yeah.
Let's use wind. Let's use solar. Let's use nuclear. Let's use hydrogen. Let's use everything under the sun. Let's just use everything, because why? All the above, just like with transportation, with education, all the above solutions is what we need, and that's what we need to do. We need to drill. We need to invest in.
There we go. I agree with that one.
I think this is the best. This is the comment we can all agree on.
Yes, we can. Yes, Patrick, we can drill. We can drill.
Patrick.
We can drill inside of our house, Patrick. Yes, we can. We could use the power of eminent domain to take our house.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm no big environmentalist per se, not to the degree of, the left-wing part of the Democratic Party. But on the other hand, look, I've got solar panels on my roof. That helps save me some money, generate something, helps save me some money in the long run. We know our good friend, Marcus. He's got a Tesla, if not, or does he have two Teslas? I don't know what
he's got. Two Teslas. Yes, he has two Teslas and solar panels.
And all of those things are fine. Use, if it's a resource that's out there that's not being really utilized, go ahead and use it. But it's not the complete solution. We here in this area do not get enough sunshine during the course of the year to power a lot of things. So therefore, we don't get enough wind to power a lot of things. So, in some areas, some of this stuff is going to work better than others, but don't go out there and throw our taxpayer money and subsidize these things, to an extent where it makes absolutely no sense. And then to push a policy that says all we're going to do is make EVs starting in 2050.
Well, I think we can learn from Germany, like you said. This is something where, again, I think France has the correct energy policy. Germany does not. These are two radically different countries. France went all in on nuclear. Germany said we're dismantling all the nuclear. We're going all in.
By the way, Don,
renewables like solar and wind.
This is the EV for the common man. It is the Kia. I've got a neighbor that just bought one. It's an EV Kia, and it's roughly about $38,000. Actually, it's about $38,000 after the tax credits you get.
Oh yeah, those tax. Well, that's the other thing. See, it's once again, it's the thing about tax policy with this is that they give you these tax credits up to until they sell a certain number of cars, and then those credits go away. But it's also that's your money and my money, basically encouraging people to buy the car. So lots of people are buying cars with a percentage of my money.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think EVs should be actually it's $39,000. I'm sorry. $40,000 for that Kia EV out the door. Plus, freight destination charges do apply. So,
I want to throw in something about this car buying thing too, because we know what a just complete mess it is these days to try to buy a car. There was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal the other day about something about financing for cars. That dealers, there was a guy in Mount Kisco, New York. All he wanted to do was buy I think it was a Lexus or a Toyota, like an SUV, and he found one. He had to pay $6,000 over the list price to get it, but when he was going to pay all cash, and the dealer said no. He says you need to finance it because if you pay cash, we're going to charge you $2,000 more because that's how much money we lose for the incentives we get to finance the car.
Yeah.
I mean, so he financed the car and then paid off the car because otherwise he wouldn't be able to. Otherwise, he's just like, well, that was cheap. What he paid in finance charges for a short period was cheaper than paying the $2,000 surcharge.
Right.
yeah,
Nuts.
I mean, I kind of did something similar to that when I bought my Yukon. GM had a promotion. If you did financing, you got another $3,000 off on the price of the car. So I did had financed for 3 months because that's how long it took them to get me my $3,000 rebate check. And then I just paid it off. And that's really the way to do a lot of these things. I mean, and look, I'm not against EVs. As you all know, I've got a Hummer on order, a Hummer EV, which is
Was it 2023, 2024? When's it coming?
They're saying 2023, like December is what the last email said. And if I'd gotten the truck, it'd probably be here sooner, but I want the SUV, so that's why, it's very reminiscent to the G.I. Joe attack vehicle. That's kind of why I got it, actually.
Yeah, based on those things I've been reading, you just have to know how to handle your big expectations about the EV and its charging, how much energy gets sucked off the battery when you're running air conditioning or heating and things like that. So I guess Patrick's on a roll now, right?
Yes, he is.
Well, I just want to say, also to Craig Yoakum's comment about the pipeline.
Why all the hate for Nancy Pelosi? Not a lot of love for Biden either.
I totally agree on that statement, Craig. So,
yeah. And I hope we'll see Craig on Pi Day, March 14th, for my campaign event. Craig.
I think Craig likes pizza.
I know. Craig and I like the same kind of pizza, except I think he likes mushrooms on his. Correct me if I'm wrong. You do like the mushrooms, right, Craig? But back to what we were talking about is it's like we've got a couple of issues we've got is with and all roads kind of everything. All of these issues are also intertwined. You got Ukraine, you got our inflation, supply chain. We got the truckers come barreling down 270.
I got to say, okay, look, I didn't have a problem with the truckers in Ottawa in general. I mean,
they're not clogging up our streets.
Protesting Trudeau, and draconian, mandates for them and everything like that in Canada. I mean, I think they embarrassed the heck out of Trudeau and the Canadian government.
Yeah.
I am not exactly sure why we need a trucker convoy in here in DC this weekend at this point. I mean, mass mandates are being lifted all over the place. We're heavily vaccinated. What are we trying? What's the point here? What are they trying to prove right now?
I don't know,
Think
but
about,
I'll
and
tell
think
you,
about all the gas. They got to be spending a fortune on gas.
the diesel. You know how much diesel is? By the way, today, the Exxon station on Old Georgetown Road, $4.50 or 53 cents
But
for a
that's what
gallon
I
of
don't get
gas.
too, because diesel, is actually a more it's an easier fuel to make.
It's supposed to be
It's
cheap.
more. It's the diesel engines can take anything from like biodiesel to kerosene. I mean, they're very generous about the
But
different types
don't
of
try to
fuel.
make your own biodiesel, by the way, because I know we've had some people have like set their houses on fire trying to build.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a
Okay,
very
so
liberal friend.
there is an
There's
edge market for biodiesel, but you can actually have there is a way to make it safe. I wouldn't suggest doing it at home, but again, we talk about like the organic mass stuff we're using. I mean, we can make biodiesel. That is kind of a semi-renewable. But again, it's like it doesn't make sense because it's just one of those policy things where you try to get, like, back in the day, people bought diesel cars because they thought it was a better economic choice to make to buy diesel, and it hasn't been that way for, I don't know, the last 20 years at least.
As long as they don't
Yeah,
buy
I mean,
GM
it
diesel.
doesn't, as I recall, Jeff, is that it actually costs the oil companies, the refiners, less to refine the diesel, and yet you find it always selling for more than the
Right.
regular, right? The 80s, regular unleaded gas.
And I don't know if that's
And,
because of
so-
desulfonization of it, that it's just that process costs more because we have very low sulfur emission requirements for diesel now, which we didn't have before. So I don't know if that's part of it, but yeah, I mean, just manufacturing diesel by itself is not a difficult process.
As long as you
but-
don't buy like a 1970s or 80s GM diesel car, because those were like utter disasters, from what I understand.
Are you saying, were you saying that diesel was what, 459 or something like that? What was that?
No, that was regular gas.
That was regular gas.
459.
I wonder what the diesel was, because we have one gas station up here by where I live, the Exxon, and they're always the highest priced gas station out of like the 5 that are within 2 miles from my house. And so yesterday was $3.99 for regular, and they were posting $4.44 for diesel. Right. I drove by there this afternoon, and so now it's $4.19 for regular, and $4.99 for diesel. So there's a 70-cent gap on that.
One thing I do want to mention about ExxonMobil is, as a ExxonMobil shareholder, and I've got a substantial piece of ExxonMobil in my retirement. Good on you, ExxonMobil. I'm going to be looking for this.
So here's that flip side, Dwight, to those of us who own some stock in oil companies, or if you own a mutual fund that's got some stock in oil companies, is that while your gas prices are going up, at the same point in time, the stock price of all these oil companies has been shooting right through the roof lately as a result. I mean, I know that since probably last October, a lot of the oil stocks have about doubled easily, in value. Now, on the other side of it, just going back briefly to Russia, Ukraine, is that we have Western companies with a lot of business in Russia that have been pulling out, including BP, which is going to take a huge hit because they actually invested in the oil company, right, in Russia. And so now you've got all these companies that are like, now what are we going to do? Some of them are going to exit completely. The other ones, I'm kind of wondering whether or not this is a temporary exit or is it a long-term exit. But I think some of them will learn what happens when you do business in a country like that run by a guy like Putin, is that your assets are at risk. I mean, all that money you
for all we know, he'll nationalize those oil companies like a lot of those third world despots did back in the day. They'd nationalize oil companies and just take them over.
Yeah, and China's been trying to come to the rescue of Russia, because they've shown that one of the grades of gas oil that Russia has out the oil is this Urals blend or whatever, right? Is that there were no bids reported on that oil the other day, and so China has come in and said, we'll buy that oil, and then they're sending tankers to Russia to do that, because there has been pressure on the world oil market to say, we're not buying Russian oil, even if it means we're going to pay more, at home. We're not buying Russian oil. So yeah, they're trying to put these squeezes on. I don't know if it's really going to do any good in the long run.
I know this sounds a little extreme, but it'd be funny if the CIA would mine some of those Russian oil ports. So when these Chinese tankers would go, they hit the mines and. Remember the CIA was doing that in Nicaragua, mining the harbors there. I mean, where's the old CIA where when you had folks like Dulles brothers running the CIA or Casey running the CIA?
Yeah, I think you're getting the CIA confused with like Mission Impossible.
No. Actually, no. The CIA did mine Nicaraguan harbors during when the Contras were fighting the commies there, which is and the CIA has done some wonderful things. I mean, in Iran, they took out the despot and put in the Shah of Iran. CIA and ITT put in Augusto Pinochet. I mean, he played ball with us. I mean, he was a reprobate in his own right, but I mean, he played ball with America. There's, I mean, yeah, we have to deal with unsavory people. It's a tough world out there, but we have to deal with unsavory. As they'd say, he might be an SOB, but he's our SOB, so to speak. And it's, I think we need to go back to days of cowboy diplomacy. Like we had in the Nixon era and the Reagan era and in the Bush era. We need to be able to, just use. I mean, nobody. I mean, for all my Truckee friends, nobody likes Section 31. Nobody detests it. But weren't we really happy when they came up with a virus to kill all the founders? That pleased us, when they did that. I mean, were we not happy when they were secretly working to destabilize the Romulan Empire? I mean, the reason of the CIA is to do stuff like that. Like some of the stuff the CIA used to do is flood like counterfeit currency in these countries and so on. Imagine if we put in a whole bunch of like 1 billion counterfeit rubles in Russia. Just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought that the CIA, the mission was kind of just, it was like the Central Intelligence, kind of the FBI, but like in foreign states, where they would just, the main purpose was to gather intelligence in foreign states. I mean, basically you've got the embassies and the various, states there, but then the CIA would be like the agents on the ground that would be trying to understand the situation, both politically and otherwise, and help advise the U.S. on diplomacy. But anyway, that's
no. I mean, I think you're generally right there. I mean, the thing too, though, is that now, my question would be with the CIA, with all the criticism it has received from liberal politicians over the years, as to exactly how much of this intelligence gathering they are doing compared to historical standards, things they've done in the past. That whether or not they have been, somewhat dismantled, and that we don't want to be spying on our allies or this country or that country. We don't want to meddle in other affairs and things like that. But
it's not just that though. But it's informing the president with actual
right.
Good intelligence. Like we don't know. I mean, we can't rely upon the media on other countries for their source of information. I mean, Ukrainian news probably has their own slant on things. It's like saying the president. Well, maybe it's a bad example, but relying on Fox News for our own intelligence. It's like we have our agents to gather intelligence about what are the true situations, what are the true issues, what's really going on, and they have to be trusted. And so again, I always thought the CIA was basically getting that intelligence for us in situations where we knew how to effectively deploy policy or troops or whatever to help or provoke a situation in some cases, to help overthrow an unfavorable leader, or to support either overtly or covertly other agents in the country.
Right, and I just think that liberal politicians over the years, I mean, they've been trying to handcuff the CIA with a lot of things, and so we're not getting the same kind of intelligence that we have in the past and that we need.
Yeah,
we have. I think there are now holes in our intelligence system, so that we no longer have the big picture. We're lacking certain pieces of information now.
And I mean, do you guys remember when we had? I mean, where's the where are the basically the foreign legions? I think we're gonna see Foreign Legion types coming into Ukraine to fight for the Ukrainians, with the Ukrainians, the British government said, hey, you can go and fight. And they made it legal. You can go fight for the Ukrainians, and it's going
Well,
to be
that's probably what
very
the
interesting.
UN is supposed to do is provide that kind of support. But because Russia is a permanent member of that, and they have not kicked him out yet. I mean, we can't.
I think we should. I think we need to leave the United Nations, start our own organization, pro-Western democracies,
With a flying
where we don't
fortress?
have any. We don't have these despots as members of it. Let's kick out all the despots of the world out of the UN. That includes mainland China. I think we should bring back free China, Taiwan into the United Nations.
We're talking about
give
NATO
them-
then.
What's that?
You're talking about NATO.
I know you're talking about NATO. I know you are.
No,
But
I'm
my
saying
point is-
what you're talking about is NATO, unless you have got a different kind of like a Justice League
No,
of
no.
America or something.
Well, no, NATO is. I'm thinking. Look, NATO is NATO, but remember, we used to have a lot of other groups that we kind of got rid of after the fall of the Berlin Wall. We used to have the Baghdad Pact. We had the Jeddah Pact, which was the Baghdad Pact was the Soviets. We had the Jeddah Pact. We had CENTO, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization. We had the Pacific Rim Treaty Organization. We've had, and what we need to do is bring those member states that are for capitalism, for democracy, and bring them in, and we start our own. Because the United Nations is run by. Look at the people that is running the WHO. The people that helped develop COVID-19 is running the WHO. We got the Human Rights Commission at the United Nations has been. China has been in charge of that. The Sudanese have been in charge of that. We've had a whole bunch of despots run the human rights division of the United Nations. And I know they've got some acronym for them, but even UNESCO is a worthless organization. That's why the United States pulled out of UNESCO, and we need, then we came back to UNESCO. But there is a need for a pro-democracy, pro-Western capitalist organization out there. Because, the United Nations is run by a bunch of third world despots. I hate to say it, that hate America. They hate prosperity. There's even some Europeans I would not want in this new organization of ours, frankly, because they're not pro-American enough. And, we are America. As I stated, Ambassador Kalar said, Klingon problems seldom remain Klingon problems. They first draw in their neighbors, then eventually the Federation will be drawn into the conflict. And that's kind of how I see, everyone classifies Russia and Ukraine being a regional problem. But, we're going to get sucked into this sooner or later. I'd rather have us on the ground floor opposed to us like having to create a D-Day type style invasion to liberate Europe, again. That's the difference, and I think, but we're actually almost at final thoughts time. So, oh wow, they can meet the okay. Anyway, so we're at final thoughts. It's been a week. Let's start with you, Jeff. You've been off for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of traveling, so got to enjoy the resurgence of winter in Michigan. When I was out there, it snowed like 3 times when I was out there. So it was pretty crazy. I'm Maryland is not like warm, but at least it's no snow. So definitely glad to be back in my state. So I don't know. I guess my thoughts, obviously, just with Ukraine and both the civilians and their leadership and such. So, I think we can disagree or agree on various approaches to support them. But I think ultimately, it's a pretty much a unified front that Ukraine is going to get support. Now, again, I think we can probably disagree upon how active the U.S. can be militarily in supporting Ukraine. But again, as I said initially, that I think there are ways to get both humanitarian and military support to Ukraine through side channels. And we want to support them because they are doing everything they can to support themselves. So they definitely have a good backbone. You know, they have a good resolve. As you said before, you know, Putin is losing face, both on the surface, and you know, his people are suffering. So I really hope that this will just wind up soon, and that he'll withdraw and say, okay, well, that was a bad idea, and let's get back to it. But I don't know. I mean, some people have that kind of personality where, you know, it's that kind of the sunken cost fallacy, where they put in effort, and no matter how bad things get, they keep on feeling like, well, I've invested so much, I got to invest more until it's working. So I'm really hoping that that he's not like that, and that he will eventually count the cost, realize that this is not worth it on the variety of fronts, and withdraw. So that's my hope. But in the meantime, my thoughts and prayers are with the Ukrainians, and I really hope that, again, that this is a short-lived invasion.
And let me just share some pictures that we've gotten. Here are the good people of Ukraine.
Yeah, thanks, Dwight.
And here's what the Ruskies have done. This was an apartment building that the Russians bombed.
Yeah, these are civilian targets, obviously. These are not military targets. So,
and it goes to show he's a war criminal, frankly. He is a war criminal. I can't repeat that enough. Don Irvine, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I want to say, I know that Trump last week launched his Truth social media company, the platform and everything like that. Had some glitches getting that launched going forward. Frankly, okay, if you sign up for it and you're in the platform, fine. That's everybody's free choice. For me, I'm kind of like, it's a Trump echo chamber. Not interested. I see a lot of people on Facebook who were waiting a long time to get in, but I'm like, I'll never be there, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who probably never be there as well. But I think after 4 years of President Trump, last thing I need is this echo chamber of people sitting around here just talking about more stuff like that. I don't see that it really moves the agenda forward. I guess that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I like discourse, good back and forth, not just everybody piling conspiracy theories and a bunch of other stuff on top of each other, which is probably what's happening in there. I will not know until somebody shows me something that's going on there, since I'm not on there and will not sign up for it.
Well, I basically just got the email because I signed up for it when it came out, and it says you've got your spot in line, so we had to wait in line. And I just checked now when you mentioned it. It says, "Oh, upload your picture," so I'm doing that, and it's saying put a bio in, So
look, I mean, to me, it's.
I wonder if I'll be kicked out if on my bio I say I'm a neocon at heart. Long live George W. Bush and Vice President Cheney, and the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Bilderbergers, and the World Bank, and the IMF.
Yeah,
see everyone at the Bohemian Grove.
And I'm kind of like, I mean, I signed up for Parler when people were switching over there, but I lost interest really quickly because I just didn't see the point.
Yeah.
As much as I kind of hate things about Facebook and Twitter, at least you get some give and take. I mean, and I don't care about the left-wing trolls on Twitter that bother that try to come after me every once in a while. It's just I just ignore them. I think they're funny, but I'm just sick and tired of this kind of round circle of things that go on within Trump world a lot of times, and we need to move on if we want to really succeed on that. The other thing is that without Brian here on the show tonight, we can't talk. Really aren't going to be talking much baseball, but the baseball situation is getting kind of bleak there with owners.
This is not Orioles magic. This is not the Orioles magic I was talking about.
Yeah, well, and I don't know. I don't know what the right solution is to the baseball strike. I mean, the players really don't want a salary cap situation, but that's what they really kind of have, what's called the competitive balance tax, balance tax, which is really called a luxury tax. It kind of puts that there, but it seems like the other professional leagues, NFL and the NBA, they have found a way to make that work more or less. Players sometimes have to get released from their contracts because they get to they hit the salary cap and don't give them enough space to sign other players and to make a competitive team. Baseball, you can get some pretty spectacular salaries for the top players, but they complain about the players on the lower end of the scale. Like, well, maybe they need to find a better way to do this. Maybe they ought to rethink the way this is all structured at this point, because this, unfortunately, the game of baseball, which I love dearly, if they don't fix this soon, they will lose. This is not like 1994 and 1995.
Yeah.
The world has changed, and it'll be very easy to lose the fans permanently this go round.
And it was prophesied by Captain Benjamin Sisko, captain of Deep Space Nine. In the Star Trek universe, baseball went away because of I'm not sure if it was strikes, but yeah. And,
so I kind of take the baseball strikes almost being like, how cell phone companies try to buy out your coverage when you have a different plan with another carrier. It's like, but eventually you get to the point where nobody's offering plans anymore because everyone is buying, is deciding that they don't want these plans because they're so encumbrant. So I don't know. I certainly don't keep up with the baseball like you guys do, but when you start having these disputes over these things, I mean, let kind of free market decide. Don't put artificial limits on these things, because they inevitably put people in situations which are of their own make, of the artificial basically, and so everyone's unhappy with those.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm old enough. I mean, I've been watching baseball for over 50 years, and it's a great game. People talk about the pace of the game and stuff like that, and that's fine. I understand. If you want to watch a baseball game, you better be ready to devote anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours of your day to do that.
At least it's not a golf game, like a lot of people watch golf,
I mean, golf has its fans, and that's not a super fast-paced thing either, granted. But, sports has changed in my lifetime, really, from people who play for the love of the game, majority of people, to where it's now a business. Now you have the owners and the players clashing, and they're each trying to get the upper hand on the other side. And there's not a lot of mutual agreement on a lot of things. And so then you wind up with these big labor disputes like this. And, the owners and the players are going to lose out, but all the fans will lose out as well. I mean, Mike, does this mean I won't be able to take my grandkids to a major league game in the future somewhere where it'll be easy? I don't know I don't know what the future holds if these guys don't find a way to fix this, and they absolutely cannot let this drag on so that they lose the first month of the season or whatever, because that will just be horrific for them.
Mm-hmm. But what would be
that's funny,
wonderful to see if the owners would just hire replacements like the NFL did and break the unions, frankly.
Yeah, that replacement player thing was I don't know. I mean, I much prefer Reagan and the Patco thing.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts, Don?
On to you, Dwight.
Okay, I've got a couple of final thoughts. I don't want anyone to panic. Okay, do not panic.
About the Shamrock
Shakes. 11 days left to get Shamrock Shakes.
Now we've got the countdown till they go away. Before we have the countdown till they started.
By the way, don't look for one on March 18th, because I have a feeling at 12:01 McDonald's they send out a memo to dump out all of your Shamrock Shake mixes. You are not allowed.
I don't know. Last year, the one up here by me still had Shamrock Shakes a couple weeks after they were officially out. So I don't know.
Maybe they were renegades.
Yeah, but, I mean, they are franchises who are beholden to certain things, but they're supposed to be given, pricing flexibility for their shops and everything like that. So, why couldn't they go rogue for a little while and just keep them running until they run out of the mix or whatever?
Yeah. And by the way, we've got my other favorite March holiday is coming up. It's Pi Day 3.14. And join me March 14th at Baba Lucia's, where you can share a slice with Dwight. Tickets are only $5, come hang out, I meet former councilman Tom Rodriguez. By the way, I just got his endorsement today, everyone. I've been endorsed. I got my first endorsement.
What is Tommy doing these days anyway?
He's working. I believe he is working for a place I'm not allowed to say, but it's. I think he's working for one of the Washington type pollster type places, you know. But so Tommy, you know, it's great to have a councilman, you know, in Kensington who got elected, you know, who basically gave out the endorsement. You know, I've got a couple more endorsements next week that are going to be rolling out. But Dwight Patel for MoCo is live and ready to go. Yeah,
That's good.
and what do you call? No, you're not.
I think that comment is ageism.
Yes. You know, yeah, he is not. He is not the Greg Gutfeld of MoCo. But anyways, back to
We can continue that conversation off.
yeah. Back to my so check out DwightPatelForMoCo.com or DwightForMoCo.com. It's a beautiful website. It is truly a very nice website. It's got
The work of
a
art.
lot of cool features and stuff like that. I've got a photo gallery now. Here, let me share that. There's some
Great
and
great web designer, right?
yeah, you know, Bats actually I can't take all the credit for this. Bats had a lot to do with this. I just don't have the time, but look at this, beautiful photos. I've got a great photo gallery, you know, from years past.
That's one thing about you, Dwight. There'll never be a shortage of photos because you've taken a billion of them.
Yeah, I even included the last elected congressman from Republican from Maryland, Connie Maryland, and that is Councilman David Marks.
Yeah.
Not the late.
Can we put air quotes around the Republican part of that?
Yeah, we can. Yes. You know, and then we could do the same thing with this guy, Frank Wolf. But that's a funny story. We went to go see Frank. One of the people that was coming with us was from Virginia, and he decided he couldn't make it, so it was just Chris and I that went. And Chris is from Kentucky. I'm from Maryland, and Frank wasn't too happy. We were kind of surprised. But he said, he goes, I'll let you do the, you know. By the way, this one is from the AIM event down at the Capitol Hill Club with Judge Janine.
Was that when those guys showed up after the thing was over? Yeah, because it was Chaffetz.
Yep. Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy, and was it Walker?
Not Walker. It was the guy from North Carolina, President's Chief of Staff. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. What it was, yeah.
Speaking of Walker, Scott Walker at CFAC. And this is the guy that endorsed me, Tommy Rodriguez. And
Haven't seen Tommy for years.
yeah, I mean, he came to the Kelly event. I don't know if you saw him there. Rick Santorum. And this is just the beginning. I've got more pictures I need to post on there. Unfortunately, what I need to, and there is Catherine Wentworth from Dallas fame. She tried to kill Bobby Ewing, you know. And it's funny, she ran for some office in Texas, and I remember her opponent said, you know, she tried to kill Bobby Ewing, you know. And I wonder if her opponent would say that she's not. Catherine Wentworth is not a real person.
Mark Meadows, that's what it was.
Yeah. And it was a great event. By the way, are they doing those at all anymore? Are they not giving out the Reed Irvine Awards anymore?
The last one they gave out was
Before the pandemic?
2019.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing, so whatever.
Maybe AIA should start handing out Reed Irvine Awards.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened. You're right.
But anyways, you know, thoughts and prayers with our friends in Ukraine. You know, call the White House, call your Congress, and tell them that America needs to stand up for Ukraine, stand with the people of Ukraine. Let's give them the air support they need. Let's do some. Let's loan the Poles some F-16 so they can give the MiGs to the Ukrainians to take down that tank column. By the way, Don, have you ever gone on a road trip without spare tires? Just saying.
Without spare tires?
Yeah.
No.
Evidently, the Russian there's a tank, and the tires they had like part of their convoy that's been slowing down is they've been having tire blowouts. So they're not obviously not using steel built-in radials on those. They're having blowout issues. They don't have spare tires to replace the blown out tires with. It's a mess. That's why, Vlad, you should have gone to AAA before you planned your invasion. AAA would have, and we need to help the Ukrainians. We are, after all, the arsenal of democracy. We need to support our friends. At the end of the day. And with that, that's my final thoughts. And visit Dr. Mocha, great site, great pictures, a lot of issues. By the way, biggest waste of time this week I had was going to the Leadership Montgomery Candidates Forum. I did get some real good gems from our Democrats that are running for county executive, because I don't think we have a Republican running for county executive yet. And the Board of Education. By the way, Don, this is funny. Every single one of the members that are running for Board of Education is against SROs or CEOs, whatever they want to call them now.
Yeah,
And
surprised.
that's a problem, So, anyways, we'll see everyone next week. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.